Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth is a threat to national security and a destabilizing influence in the world economy. Once again, the major idiot shared attack details in a second signal chat on an unsecured iPhone. This is one of the most powerful men in the world. He is the most powerful person in the Pentagon. And if this man keeps making these ridiculously foolish mistakes, he is going to harm your investments and your 401ks, because the world will not be as lucrative or profitable whenever there is a lapse in the tactical ability of the United States military. The world economy, especially ours, takes a tumble. But before I go into detail, let's talk about what actually happened in this second failure. Once again, he sent detailed information about planned attacks in Yemen to a private signal group that he created, which included his wife, his brother, and a dozen other people. Why do his wife and his brother need to know when Yemen is getting targeted? Flight schedules for the FA-18 Hornets that were going to strike the Houthi rebels were sent again. Now, the first time we had this major lapse in judgment and common sense was from Mike Waltz, the National Security Advisor, about a month or so ago. And no, these idiots still didn't learn. They used Signal once again. Even if it was end-to-end encrypted, it doesn't matter if it's on an unsecured device. Two of the members in this chat were Dan Caldwell and Darren Selnick, and they were fired last week after accusations of leaking unauthorized information. It looks like these guys are trying to screw us up. And all of this is happening when the Pentagon is going through a lot of destabilization as we speak. Joe Casper is the chief of staff for Pete Hegseth. His literal right-hand man has just resigned. There are 3 other resignations that have taken place from very high up senior positions in the Pentagon as well this week. And one of the major causes of those resignations was the earlier leak of information that Mike Waltz started. And of course, there's a shakeup of one particular oligarch trying to break into Department of Defense meetings. Something very important to mention about these 4 resignations is that all of these advisors and chiefs of staff were Trump appointees. It's not like Biden brought them in and these guys are just protesting because they're crazy Democrats. A senior defense official has been quoted in saying there's a complete meltdown in the building, and this is really reflecting on the secretary's leadership. Another quote that alarms me you should all hear is, "The front office has some really first-rate uninformed military staff, but there's only so much they can pick up in an organization that big." That kind of dysfunction compounds, and this was a former Trump administration official. Before I go any further, I want you to know that there have been leaks before in prior administrations. Over a decade ago, Hillary Clinton used a private server to send classified information, very sensitive stuff that nobody else should have been able to even hope to access. During our current president's first term, his daughter Ivanka and Jared Kushner shared classified information on WhatsApp, which is not encrypted in any way, shape, or form, to cover such sensitive stuff. Then there's the Russian antivirus software Kaspersky, which actually was used to hack in a lot of US military contractors' computers. And in 2012, David Petraeus, the head of the CIA at the time, disclosed very sensitive classified information to his biographer, just to be written about. And even though he was so stupid for doing that, he had the common sense to resign, and he accepted the charge of a misdemeanor. But what makes Hegseth's and Mike Waltz's leak so much more disastrous is that these were messages about an impending U.S. military strike, or one that was currently taking place. None of the other examples I've mentioned have anything like that on their servers, on their notes. This chat included timing, aircraft used, and launch targets on current military targets before they happened. And because they were on unsecured devices, there is a chance, even if it is small, that they could have been hacked by Iran, Russia, or China. Anyone who would be desperate to share that information with the targets to prevent the event from occurring. And I want to repeat, even if Signal is really 100% end-to-end encrypted, it doesn't matter if the entire device isn't 100% digitally secure. And if one of these third parties was able to gain access to Pete Hegseth, or as I like to call Major Idiot's phone, then they could do a couple things. They could install malware on that phone and find everything out about it, including real-time data with every single military operation currently taking place. They could find whatever strategic vulnerabilities that they already haven't. They could gain access to real-time content, metadata, actual messaging between other leaders. But how does that impact the economy? For one, we're telling the world, including our enemies, that we are led by a very stupid person in the highest military office. For all we know, they may have already hacked the devices. And three, I highly doubt if this man is still Secretary of Defense that he won't avoid another horrendous blunder again. And enough of these blunders will constitute some kind of movement that causes us to lose a major asset. In 1978, Iran was one of America's key partners in the Middle East, and they relied on each other heavily. When there was the revolution and the Shah was kicked out, that crushed a lot of the US's ability to surveil and curtail USSR influence, and that crushed the US economy, furthering the oil crisis. The same thing happened when America failed to rescue the hostages that were taken in Iran over a year later. Then, of course, was what took place on September 11th, 2001, with one of the largest national security failures in American history that didn't just harm every American deep down in their soul, it also caused a huge financial panic. There are other countless examples of intelligence failures leading to huge market corrections. But I want to tell you something. This is the interest rate for a 10-year treasury bond. You don't want it to be this high. And since the tariff escalations were taking place, it has been getting higher and higher, meaning the value of our debt looks worse. But something else is bad. The average prime rate for a 30-year American mortgage is 2 to 2.5% benchmark above the 10-year treasury yield. So every little bit that 10-year treasury yield goes higher, it becomes that much harder for any average American to pursue the dream of owning their own home. There's also the fact that the trust in the American dollar is crashing down to a 3-year low, because not only are major economies dumping American debt, they are dumping the American dollar. And things can get much, much worse, especially if Pete Hegseth is still going to be the Secretary of Defense in the near and far future. Just replace him with this guy. He is also a major in the United States Army. I believe he's a reserve now. Now, guys, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm not trying to be one of those gross fearmongers, but I am trying to let you know what's actually happening and the potential consequences, which are severe. I am the Geo Husar. Get rid of Pete Hegseth. The learning curve is lost on that man. Thanks for watching.